Coming up on the Solo Show.
The lesson is, though, when you told me, you were like, oh, but it had a rating of 84. 84 rating on the internet, in the land of the internet, is garbage.
Yeah.
You really got to look at it and go, I don't know about this one.
This and much more as Stan welcomes Peter Tedone for Trip Talk about the Star Wars celebration in London. The good, the bad, and the ugly. Well, that was weird. Coming up right now on The Solo Show, brought to you as always by Victor Naraki Realtor, serving Disney and the greater Orlando area with celebratingflorida.com and disneyatyourdoorstep.com. Realtor Victor Naraki makes living near Walt Disney World a reality, specializing in all the communities surrounding Disney. Whether you're looking to relocate or invest in a new property, maybe you want a vacation home for your retirement. With over a decade of experience in the area, Victor will adapt to your needs, help you find the right property, or get you the best price for your property. Reach out to him today on his website, celebratingflorida.com, or at disneyatyourdoorstep.com. Follow him at Victor Naraki Realtor on Facebook, and don't forget to tell him that the Solo Show sent you.
Hi, I'm C-3PO Human Cyborg Relations, and you are listening to The Solo Show.
Broadcasting from the Solo Studios, located in a Mandalorian vacation spot here in Winnipeg, Manitoba, in the center of North America, on this little planet we call Earth. This is The Solo Show. On this adventure, Stan and his gang talk the good, the bad, and the ugly. Why does that keep happening? Stan and his gang talk about their recent trip to Star Wars Celebration 2023 in London. And now, please welcome your host, the guy who told Dave Filoni that
this is the way.
Here's Stan Solo.
Hello and welcome to another edition of The Solo Show. I am Stan Solo as always, and I got a very special show today. We're going to talk about Star Wars Celebration, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Okay, that was weird. Alrighty, the good, the bad, and the ugly Star Wars Celebration. Alrighty, joining me today is my good friend, Peter Tedone, all the way from Orlando, Florida. Welcome to the show, or welcome back to the show, Peter. How are you doing today, my friend?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm looking forward to chatting about our 2 weeks now away vacation.
Yeah, has it been 2 weeks already?
Yeah.
Oh
Actually, it may have been.
No.
Is it 2 or 3?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Since Celebration, it has been 2 weeks.
Oh, yeah, I guess so, because we spent a bit more time in London after.
Yep.
Which was amazing. Yeah. Oh, my gosh. That was like the trip of my lifetime. How about you?
It was one of the best vacations I've ever had. Yeah. I was physically exhausted at the end of it. Really, really just hammered. But it was the coolest thing I've done in a long time.
Yeah.
And I guess we're going to talk about some of the highlights of that over the time that we have with the show right now.
Yeah, absolutely. We might get a couple people hopping in and hopping out during the show. We'll see how it goes. I sent out some invites to people that we were out with, and they haven't gotten on yet. So we'll see what happens. All right.
Yeah, we'll see what it is. Yeah. There's just wild people out there.
So Peter, you stayed at a hotel that was kind of close to the convention center. Was it walking distance?
Yeah, it was. It was walking. It was about 20. It was a 20-minute walk because we timed it on day 0. You know, we arrived in London at the convention center at our hotel the Thursday before the show. And essentially it was a scouting day. It was like, all right, let's walk over to the convention center, find out where we got to go. How long does it take to get there? What's the vibe? You know, just the layout. Like, what are we doing? And so it was a 20-minute walk. It was actually it was 20 minutes long only because the closer entrance was being used for staff only. If not for that, it was actually like an 8-minute walk.
Oh, nice.
So about 20-minute walk. And that was extremely helpful every day. Not that, you know, you always have that idea like, I'll go back to my room during the day and drop stuff off. You're never going to do that.
You're not going to do that.
Yeah, that's crazy talk. It's never going to happen. But it was nice knowing at the end of the day, I just got to walk 20 minutes and I'm home. And so that's helpful mentally. That's helpful to have.
Not that you ever did that, because we always end up going out for dinner every night or something.
Yeah, that's true too. That is absolutely true. So yeah,
in theory, it's a good idea.
It's a bunch of lies to yourself.
I never never did time it, but I took the underground or the train or this. I don't know what they call them in London. I think it's the underground. It wasn't the train. I found that out the hard way. The tube.
The tube. Yeah, they call it the tube.
And I think it was over 30 minutes away with a 10-minute walk to the station.
Okay.
It was fine. Other than the fact that the Airbnb I stayed in was probably the worst place I've ever stayed in my life. It was bad.
Yeah, you were not pleased. I had heard you told me many a time you were not pleased. Luckily, the place that we had rented for our post Star Wars celebration portion of staying in London, very, very nice.
Yeah,
very nice, very roomy, very spacious. And I did have a slight concern when you were describing the one you had. I was like, oh no.
Oh man, it was so bad. As soon as I opened the door and the smell hit me, and it wasn't like a rotten smell or a bad smell. It was a very floral smell, and I knew, okay, they got air fresheners going in here galore. And
it's like the
I unplugged
from 7.
8 plug-in air fresheners and probably took about 20 of those. You know, they get those sticks that are in those vases with water or oil, whatever. I took like 20 of those things out of the vases in the bathroom. It was just a nightmare. Oh my gosh. The good news is
the lesson here, though,
it was just a bed and a shower.
The lesson is, though, when you told me, you were like, oh, but it had a rating of 84. 84 rating on the internet, in the land of the internet, is garbage.
Yeah.
That means that it's dangerous. Like, don't go there.
Yeah.
It's sad that it's like that, but it is like that. Like, unless it's, 4.7 or higher, you really got to look at it and go, I don't know about this one. So, lesson learned. Yeah,
lesson learned. I mean, the shower worked and the bed was comfortable, and that was all I used, really. That's all I needed.
Essentially, yeah.
Yeah. The neighborhood was kind of sketchy, but I don't get BMWs, all these Porsches and all that parked all over the neighborhood, but the neighborhood felt sketchy to me. I don't know.
You're a clean Canadian. Who knows?
Yeah.
The neighborhood probably wasn't sketchy at all. You just weren't used to, more of an urban setting. I mean, when we stayed in the south of London for that second half of the trip in London, and I had a guy who he lived in central London. He was working at a little coffee shop in one of the towers near Parliament, and he was like, oh, south of London, I don't go there, it's scary. There was absolutely zero wrong with our neighborhood.
No, our neighborhood was great.
Oh yeah, our neighborhood was great. It's just that when you're used to a certain thing, other things worry you. So this guy was definitely in that pool.
Could be. Right. Yeah, I guess I'm in that same pool. The guy at the flower shop was very friendly, I gotta say. We talked to him every morning walking to the station. There was a guy out there watering his flowers in the flower shop, and he would, hey, Canadian, Yankee, how you doing?
Oh, wow. Yeah, sure.
Anyways, so I got in. So I walked, basically the subway dropped us off, or the tube or the underground, I don't know, dropped us off, and we kind of walked right in almost, other than standing in line for 2 hours waiting to get in. Maybe not that long. Mm-hmm. It was a long walk though. It was a long walk. Is that the same way you came in, I think, eh?
Yeah. I just came in through that the one station that was open as the general entry.
Yeah.
And you basically went down a little alley to your left, and that's where the general queue started, and then they would bring you into the building for the, quote unquote, the main queue.
Mm-hmm.
And then you were there until they let you in at 10 o'clock ish.
Yeah. So I was with Jackson, and our first minute there, we got separated. We had advanced tickets to the Lucasfilm panel, the first opening panel, and our plan was to go and sit together. And I walked through security. I went through the metal detector. He went through the metal detector, and I was talking to some stranger as we were walking in. And I guess Jackson got pulled aside to go through his bags, and I didn't know this. So I was well in there already, and I looked around. Hey, where's Jackson gone? And there's no Wi-Fi. The Wi-Fi didn't work. The cell phone didn't work. I couldn't message him. It was crap as far as that goes. So I thought I was way ahead of him, so I was waiting for him. I never did see him. Turned out I passed where I'm supposed to go. He got in way ahead of me. He had like the third row, and I was sitting in the back row somewhere in the opening panel.
Goodness. Stick with your party. See, that's what happens when you separate.
Yeah. Well, you think at this day and age, you just text each other, where are you? We couldn't text each other at all. It took
the signal in there was messy / not working, and the Wi-Fi, once you have, 9,000 people trying to use the same Wi-Fi, that pretty much becomes ineffective. That is a problem at every convention.
Yeah.
That's almost unavoidable. It's at every single convention. I'm sure someone's like, well, I never had a problem at blah, blah, blah. You're the exception, not the norm. It's just how it is.
Yeah.
So it was a little worse though. This one at Excel Center, it felt worse when trying to get in touch with people.
Yeah.
So
whether using data or Wi-Fi, it just, and I had a 5G network card too, even, and I had nothing.
My phone constantly said 5G with like 3 bars, but it meant nothing.
Yeah.
It just stared at me.
Yeah, exactly. So that opening Lucasfilm panel, we got our first big announcements with the movies coming out.
Yeah.
You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So, I mean, one of them we actually, I don't know, I just knew it was coming, which is the Filoni one. We talked about it when I was last on the show.
Mm-hmm.
This was the thing that I thought would be announced, and it was. So I call it the Filoni movie, but it's, the Mandalorian, Ahsoka crossover, maybe I guess Boba Fett will show up and
I would
wave
imagine
hello to the crowd. Yeah, he's got it right. It'll be that event where, again, my guess, I think obvious, easy guess, is Thrawn is the baddie, and it's a culmination that has started since Rebels. That'll be the finale, really, of Rebels. If you look at, through a very long scope. Now, they didn't give any dates, and this was only one of the 3, but when you look at the landscape of, okay, what's coming on, what's coming up next, we have Ahsoka in August. I would assume we get one more Mandalorian if they started shooting very, very quickly. Maybe that was, in 2024, like mid or late. I think, I don't know. I would expect the Filoni film to be the first one that comes, and my easy guess would be Christmas of 2025 or May of 2026.
I think Christmas 2025 for the first movie is a really good.
I feel like that's, the only thing about that is Ahsoka the last thing that leads into it? Because I doubt they're going to be able to squeeze another season of Ahsoka out if this one is coming out in August, unless they get out something in Christmas of next year, 2024.
Or May. May 2025?
I don't think that's enough. That's not enough time to film and produce a whole nother season of Ahsoka.
No, May 25.
Maybe that's Mando. Maybe that's like another season of like the retired Mandalorian. And that's like more of a crossover than anything, even though Mandalorian was largely a crossover. I find that term very weird when talking about, we're going to do a crossover movie. It's like, mate, the whole series has been a crossover. Yeah. So it just feels like more of that. But yeah, so we got that, which was, I would say, the most expected of the 3.
Yeah.
The second most or non-surprising was, hey, we're going to go all the way back. Now, when I say that, my brain was like, okay, well, we're going to get a High Republic movie, which we will eventually. They're absolutely working on that to happen. At least it feels like that with the way that, we'll talk about the High Republic live action show that's coming out. But James Mangold, who, right now is prepping his, he's the director of the new Indiana Jones film. Prior to that, he did Logan, Ford versus Ferrari. He, the Johnny Cash biop with Joaquin Phoenix, that's movies that he's all directed. So he is a guy who, when he is announced to a project, that project usually gets done. It's not usually a thing in the air the way that I know that, and for good reason, when you hear a Star Wars feature film announced right now, you have all the right in the world to say, great, I'll be excited when I'm in a theater.
Yeah.
Because we've had a very long line of announcements that never happened or semi-announcements that didn't happen and that the internet kind of ran with. And we've also had films that did happen, but there were so many changes on the way to the finish line, which isn't uncommon. It's just that Star Wars is under a very big microscope, so you notice, you're just aware of it more. But Mangold is a pretty solid guy, unless Indy comes out and is just a wreck of a film. Where people are like, bury this underneath the ground and like, we don't want to see this anymore. Just end it.
Crystal Skull.
That's
Part
the only
2.
thing. That's the only thing I could see that would derail his direct involvement. But his pitch is really hot. I mean, he essentially is like, what if the Silmarillion was happening in Star Wars? Like, I'm going to bring you to day one. We're not going to go, 500 years before the movies. We're going thousands, 20,000 years or whatever he said.
I missed that part. I didn't realize it was that far back we're going.
Yeah, it's like, we're going to bring you to the very first Jedi.
Okay.
That's That's really exciting. Like that idea is super exciting. Also because it won't look like all the other movies, which I think is something that those films desperately need. As much as the cinematography and the look and the feel of like an Andor and a Rogue One is different than the more sci-fi fantasy, type stuff that you get in Empire and this and that. They look very familiar. Like you can point at it and go, that's Star Wars. I wouldn't mind if something wasn't instantaneously recognizable as Star Wars, but then became something that you associated with Star Wars.
Well, I think Andor was kind of like that.
Yeah.
I found that a lot of Andor.
Yeah, but like the clothes are Andor. The stormtroopers are wearing stormtrooper outfits.
Yeah, but they were few and far
guns
between,
are guns.
Like there wasn't a lot of stormtroopers, especially the first half
for me, it was the delivery system. It was the way it was visually given to you with the cinematography and the way that the camera worked, that it felt different, but it 100% is a Star Wars world. There's no arguing like that's Star Wars.
Yeah.
I'm talking about like strip it down further. Like what if there are no blasters? That would be cool. Like I really want to go back. Which you get a little taste of that in the High Republic with how communication is very rare between large distances. Like they're building those relays in the High Republic.
No hologram.
And this will be, well, there are some, but again, it's like short range. It's, they're building those things to make it into the world that we're more familiar with. You bring it back to then and you are on a planet and maybe that's it. What it could be is very, very exciting. And then the third film is perhaps the most, I would say, unexpected but expected at the same time.
Yeah.
Where we're going past episode 9 and, we're bringing back Rey and we're going to continue that storyline into another thing. And I feel so terrible. I did not write this down. The woman who is going to be the showrunner technically on that, she actually was a director for a couple of episodes of Miss Marvel for MCU recently on Disney Plus, and she directed 2 of the better episodes. And that show was a lot of fun. She had 2 of the better episodes.
Yeah.
So the woman that's in charge of that, I wanted to look it up because I wanted to get it right. Her name is Sharmeen Obad-Chinoy. I apologize if I'm butchering the actual correct pronunciation.
Which you probably are.
She did a lot. I don't know, actually.
You might be right. You might be right. I have no idea.
Yeah, you never know. But so she's going to be directing. She had directed, again, as I said, a couple episodes of Miss Marvel. And the script is actually being written by Stephen Knight, who is one of the writers of Peaky Blinders. So that's 2 really great things. Here is my concern on that movie. My concern is if I was Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy, I'd be looking over my shoulder every 3 minutes because it seems that creatives who are announced at the beginning don't last. And I would normally in that situation, you kind of look at it and you go, well, is it only like the white dudes who make it through? No, no one makes it through recently on this. That being said, I have a feeling they're very aware of that.
They gotta stop doing that. Like, oh my god.
I think that these are movies that while we just learned about them, this is usually always the thing. This has not been like in talks for a little bit. This has been planning for a while.
Yeah.
There is no way Daisy Ridley was brought up on stage and they're like, we're not solid on this.
Yeah.
So while I hope that she stays on through the entire process, that is the one part that I'm like, well, will she be there? Will James Mangold be there? We know that Filoni and Favreau will be there for theirs. Like that's not an argumentative point. But when these films come out and they're done, who are the people who are in front of you presenting them?
Yeah.
Because I think that's important.
What I found interesting is that they didn't announce it's going to be a trilogy. It sounds to me like these are 3 movies, 3 independent movies, no sequels, no plans for trilogies or anything. Did you get that impression?
Yeah, I don't think that they're ready to commit to saying anything beyond this one.
Yeah.
Because I also don't think that there's any reason to.
No.
I mean, if you've got a really good idea for a one-shot movie, do it.
Yeah.
Go wild.
Yeah.
I don't like, there's no rule that, I don't think there should be any rule like, well, Star Wars got to be a trilogy. That's silly. I don't think that's the way it should be.
Yeah.
So, go wild. And if you've got something that can really, work. So I think the overall idea is, the Jedi are going to kind of be in disarray. And what Rey may have thought was like, all right, we're going to get this,
Mhm.
is, a little harder and a little more messed up because she's kind of alone. When you think about it, not like she has Finn and she has Poe to a certain extent, but like people within her influence of like Jedi, the word on a piece of paper, she's alone.
Yeah, like Leia's gone, Luke is gone.
Leia's gone, Luke's gone, Ben's gone, everyone's gone. So
Yeah.
she is very much alone.
She has Chewbacca.
Now, is there maybe another person who likes to say how much they are not a Jedi? Probably still around.
Maybe.
I think so. And that is my distant pull.
Maybe she'll have a grown-up Grogu with her.
I mean, whatever. That would interest me a lot less. Because like, oh, great, we're just doing the Luke Yoda thing again. Yeah. Boring. I think that to me, that's boring.
So that's the good. That's the good. Let's talk a little bit about the ugly. What was your thoughts on the organization of this convention? As far as the layout of the land.
All right. So it was by far the smallest venue that we had been to for a celebration so far, which from a distant point of view, I was quite excited about because I was like, oh, cool. Maybe it won't, it'll be a little more intimate, but it will be, it'll flow, really nicely. And I was basing that on people who had gone to the previous London thing. They sold way more tickets than they did to the previous London thing. So it felt very cramped. Day one was a mess. And look, day one at any convention is a mess. Hell, day two at usually any convention is kind of a mess.
Yeah.
But day one in particular was really messy in that when we got into that first panel, I was in one of the screening rooms for Lucasfilm. We all got dumped out into what I would say is if anyone's ever been to a mall, and it's sort of like that spoken, that wheel and spoke mall where you have a center and then everything centers out. You're in just one of the hallways where there's an Orange Julius on one side and then whatever, a Hot Topic on the right. And that was the hallway that roughly 7,000 people got dumped into.
Oh my gosh.
And on top of it, you had the eateries.
You're talking about at the end of the convention?
Yeah, at the end of the panel.
Well, yeah. Well, that was just it. Like, I think the problem is, so you got the celebration hall, which holds 4,500 people, and then you got the was it the Twin Suns?
Twin Suns and then Galaxy Stage, which between the both of them probably held about 2,000 to 3,000 people.
And they all dump at the same time because they're all streaming the same show.
Which again, that's common. Like that happens at every celebration.
But they're all on the same
usually
end of
those
the
rooms.
Convention center.
Yeah, at the other convention center, those three rooms don't empty out into one hallway.
Yeah.
And for this one, it did.
Yeah.
So on that very first day, and on top of that, on the left and right, you have all the eateries. So by the time that first panel let out, some people were getting food. Not everyone was in the panel. A lot of people walked the floor, they didn't get into the panel. So you have hundreds of other people getting food. And then on top of that, they had Rey's, a 1-to-1 scale version of Rey's speeder in the middle of the hallway. And that was taking up a massive amount of space. They wound up moving that day too. If you didn't notice, they put it into the corner of the hallway.
Well, they had that big X-wing right there as well, too. The full-size X-wing.
Yeah, that was for the TIE fighter. The TIE fighter.
Oh, sorry, the TIE fighter. Yeah.
Yeah. So they had that as well. And so after the first panel, you were absolutely shoulder to shoulder, about 50 yards up and down of just people trying to figure out where do I go?
And most of them are hungry at this point because you're getting out at 1 o'clock in the afternoon and haven't eaten yet.
Yeah. And we've been there since 9, 10 o'clock or earlier, 7 o'clock-ish. So it was a really bad impression. And every one of us who had been at Chicago, we were all like, wow, I really miss Chicago because Chicago was the best one that I've gone to. This was my fourth, and Chicago was by far the best.
Yeah,
Anaheim was great. Orlando was okay because that was the pre-lotto days, and you just had to do a lot of dumb stuff to get into panels. But this felt the most cramped, and then on top of that, the floor it was so small when I'm just so used to the floor being expansive and rows of things to look at. And this just wasn't that. The stuff on the floor was nice. The dealers and stuff, that was some good stuff. It was good stuff out there. Even some really great snacks. There was some donut stalls out there. They were excellent.
I felt that the people selling stuff, that was the best selection I've ever seen at a celebration. There was a lot of old school stuff, a lot of new stuff. Like they were selling vintage toys, which you don't always see at celebration. I really appreciated that. Like I even bought an old figure that I really wanted as young adult that I've always wanted. I always wanted this figure. I'd never seen it for sale before. I saw 3 of them for sale. I bought the cheapest one of the 3.
Yeah, the floor was nice. I would say I was, but it was crowded, which is normal. I mean, that's normal.
Yeah.
That's fine. But at least usually there's just a larger floor. So while it is still equally crowded, just have more to look at. And this just didn't feel like you had very much to look at. And I'll say this again and again, the size of that Funko booth is gross and it's boring.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes up so much space where you could do so many more interesting things. But, you know, people like buying those little pieces of plastic garbage. So unfortunately, that's there. Yeah, you're a problem. Stan. You're one of the problems.
I quit. I'm not buying another Funko Pop for the rest of my life. I'm done. Done.
But yeah, I mean, the Hasbro booth had a lot of great stuff. That was a really exciting place to kind of pop into and see, you know, what they were doing there and what was going to be going on sale. The Hero and Villains booth was very busy the whole weekend. Alice Zhang's booth was a madhouse the whole weekend. She was the artist who did all the badge art, and she was selling postcard-sized prints of all the badge art. She had the most consistent line that any booth had that wasn't like a like a corporation, you know, or like a business. I mean, she's a business unto herself.
Well, I think her line was longer at times than the Celebration store was.
It was, that's how popular that badge art was.
Yeah.
To the point that they sold out of those badge art prints on like day 2. And they wound up just taking, and I'm one of the buyers, they wound up just taking pre-orders on the full set that they will mail to you at a later date.
Yeah.
They're like, we don't have any more here, but you can do it right now, you know, pay with, you know, Square or whatever it was. And here's your email confirmation and enjoy it when, you know, we'll let you know when they start shipping out. I cannot imagine. She made a killing.
Oh yeah.
I mean, she did so well and she deserves it because that art was great. The badge art was the coolest badge art we've had. So there was a lot of good excitement out there. The Forbidden Planet booth, which was hosting a bunch of the comic book writers and artists, just stacked with guests and signings and people. So like all that stuff was good.
I just felt there was so many rooms that were left empty. They called it the Boulevard, that hallway that you go down and then there's on either side. They call that the Boulevard. There were empty halls that they never used at all, that they could have spread stuff out way more than what they did.
Yeah. We used them to sit down to eat lunch in.
Yeah. People were
and you would go in there.
People were playing lightsaber fights in them and stuff like that. Like they were open. But
they were open. They were like open for business, you know, and it was cooler in there also, but there was nothing in there, not a chair, nothing.
No. And you could fit a jumbo jet in these rooms and they weren't using them at all.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they absolutely like set up another screening room. What are we talking about? Like just let everyone see the panels. That's one of the big things that while I'm a big supporter of the lotto, and I've had this go for me and against me. I want to be very clear on this. In Chicago, I got one panel through the lotto. In Anaheim, I got literally all of them. And then in this one, I got one of them. And I still got into the ones that I wanted to go into. Although one of them was a bit of a cluster and we won't get into that. But Pete got his way in there.
Lining you up at the back of the line instead of the front of the line after getting there. So
like mixing up, literally turning the people who were there first around and then being like, oh, now you're at the back of a line. Like, whoa, what had just happened?
There's the ugly. There's the ugly of the good, the bad, and
the ugly on this is, and I don't really get like why this is a problem. If there are 4 panels and you're doing a lotto for them, it should not be that some people get every single one of them and the majority of people get 0. There were more people I spoke to that got 0 panels at this show than ever before.
Yeah.
Just make a limit. It's an easy, like you can add it into the whole thing that's doing this lotto. A badge can get into 2 panels at most. And then you spread it out, you know, just amongst more people.
Yeah.
And and I am somebody who straight benefited from it in Anaheim. I got every single one.
Yeah.
But I think that's I think it's a trash system to do that to people.
I I only entered 3 instead of 4 because I thought it might improve my odds of getting the ones I really wanted.
Doesn't
and
matter.
I kind of might have, because I got the 2 I really wanted the most. I got the opening panel and I got the Ahsoka panel.
It doesn't matter because
Yeah.
we literally know a group who entered every single panel and they got every single one.
Yeah. Well, Jackson got 3 because he entered the one that I didn't.
And Sarah and Paul got into every single one of them with their kids. There were 4 people because everyone was making up like these conspiracy theories, like, oh, well, we had more people on it, so that's why we didn't get it. No, unfortunately, it's just dumb luck.
Yeah.
And dumb luck is just going to not swing in your favor occasionally.
Yeah.
And I also say, though, at the same time, if you are traveling to a convention and spending ultimately on your ticket, on your hotel, and your expenses, if you're spending more than $1,000 and the thing that you are banking everything on is going to a panel that happens at 11 a.m. when it's a 9-hour show, I think you're going for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
I think that there's a lot more than just that 11 a.m. panel. I understand the excitement of wanting to be in the room as someone who's made very big efforts to get myself into those rooms that I really wanted to go into. I understand it, but don't put yourself in the mental position where that makes or breaks the entire convention. Because guys, as much as those panels are great, guess what? They're online 20 minutes later.
Yeah.
It's really not a secret.
Well, you can even watch them on the celebration live.
They're live on YouTube when they're happening. Yeah. Now there is some stuff that happens after the live stream goes off that's really cool.
Yeah.
And those are really the cherries on top.
And you do get sometimes a freebie,
exciting.
like a poster or something like that.
Of course. But again, do not bank your entire experience at these conventions on the one panel that happens at 11 a.m. when you're there till 7 o'clock in the night.
Yeah.
Like, go and do some other stuff. It'll be fine. You will find more than enough things. If you actually really enjoy Star Wars, you will find more than enough things to keep yourself occupied.
Yeah.
Every day that we were there, 5 o'clock comes like lightning.
Yeah.
Where you just like, what the hell just happened?
Yeah,
Day's over.
I know. I look at my watch. I was like, 4 o'clock. I thought it was 2. Like, I thought I haven't eaten yet.
Yeah. That's crazy how it happens every time. Even when you're fully aware of it, you're like, all right, this day's not going to fly by. Like, I'm going to pay attention to every hour. And then you do like 2 or 3 things and immediately you're like, oh, it's 4? It's 4 o'clock? We have an hour and a half, 2 hours left? Like, we got to go. Like, what else are we doing today?
It's a whirlwind.
It's crazy.
I did it was called the Star Wars Trailer Park or something like that, or panel.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
It was on the 3rd floor. I think that was my favorite panel. I enjoyed that one more than I did the Lucasfilm panel, more than I did the closing ceremonies was very exciting. But they were showing really old, hard to find Star Wars trailers and commercials from around the world. And they had one of George Lucas when I think this is like right after A New Hope from Japan that I've never seen before. And it's him with a shirt and tie and jeans in a farmer's field of wheat. And he's sitting there with his hands on his hip and there's a Japanese voice talking and they have him from the back and it's kind of like a sunset. And then the camera kind of zooms and he turns around and gives this creepy smile to the camera and picks a piece of weed up and kind of rubs it against his face. And then he starts walking through the field and there's a bunch of Star Wars characters in the field jumping up and down, celebrating, happy to see him. And he kind of gives them all hugs and stuff. And I can't remember what the product was for it. Oh my gosh, it was weird. It was, like those are the type of hidden gems that you get at Celebration that you don't get anywhere else. And you're watching this in a room with people that never seen this before, and we're all sitting with our mouths open going, oh my God, what is this?
Every year, I think the best panels are not the biggest panels.
Yeah.
I mean, look, we'll put the John Williams performing live in front of me aside. That's a unique unicorn, but all the time, it's one of the other ones. For me this year, the High Republic panel, which was packed to the gills, was incredibly exciting because not only did we get the High Republic panel, but towards the end of that panel, which they were talking about the books mainly, towards the end of that panel, Leslie Headland came out onto stage, and this is when the live stream went out. Now, Leslie Headland is the showrunner for The Acolyte, one of the new live action shows from Star Wars that takes place in the High Republic, and she came out, so everyone was like, "Why is she here?" And so the room just started buzzing, like, what's going to happen just now? And again, like, she showed the trailer and kind of made it seem like that was it. And then then she was like, and now just for you guys, I'm going to show you another character that's going to be in the show that's not in the trailers. And again, you're in the High Republic one, so everyone knows their High Republic characters.
Mm-hmm.
And she debuted that Vanestra Rowe from the High Republic novels is going to be an acolyte.
Oh,
which
wow.
Acolyte takes place 50 years after the High Republic books, as they currently are right now. So Vanestra right now is like a 16-year-old kid. So her, her species age is not exactly like humans, but she's like a grown adult now. And they showed her in live action. The
As a
crowd
kid?
lost their mind.
Oh, man.
I mean, no, not as a kid, as a grown adult.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, because now this show, Acolyte, takes place 50 years later. So she's like a full, Jedi, probably master at that point. The crowd, including me, just lost their mind. So that was a highlight. And then the other panel that had such incredible energy throughout the whole thing was also another one that wasn't an 11 a.m. one, and it was for Visions. It was the panel for Visions season 2, packed, fully packed, people coming in through the whole thing. And we actually got to watch an entire episode of the upcoming season, the Aardman one. The people who do Wallace and Gromit, they did one of the episodes, and the crowd was just busting laughing. They were just high energy, and all you had to do to get into those panels is line up about 45 minutes prior.
Yeah. And Visions comes out May 4th, I think, does it not?
May 4th, yep.
Yeah.
May 4th. Very excited.
I can't believe we've gone almost 40 minutes. We haven't talked about the food. Anything spectacular with the food for you, or anything bad? Actually,
there was one place. Oh man, it was a gyro place.
Okay.
They had falafel and this and that. I can't remember the name of it.
No, you posted.
Yeah,
did a meme.
No, that that was for another place. It was called Chosen.
Chosen.
Yeah, though that was a different joint. Yeah. So I put the picture of Obi-Wan yelling, "You're the chosen one." But this place was just like a gyro type joint, and we ate there. I think 3 out of the 4 days of celebration. That's where we got our lunch, because it wasn't burgers and hot dogs. So not a lot of people. Let's be very, very straight here. Not a lot of white people were on the line that was for non-traditional white food. So it was a nice short wait, and it was really, really good, and it wasn't that expensive.
I got into a line for a burger place, and I'm standing in this line, and I'm looking at the menu, and I'm reading it, and I noticed that everything is kind of spelt weird.
Oh, it was a vegan joint,
right? The vegan joint. So I'm standing there, and I say to the person in front of me, I go, "Excuse me, is this all vegan food?" And he says, No, just the one is. Well, why do they got the plant symbol after every item? And the guy goes, "Oh my God, this is a vegan line."
Tracked.
So
you were
those
tricked.
two, myself, the 2 people behind me, and I think the 3 people in front of them all left the line at the same time.
Oh my God, you monsters. It's funny. I guarantee if you would have bought it like a burger and it just ate it, you would have never known.
Probably not.
Like, oh, it's a good burger.
I do occasionally try the vegan options when I go, but I was craving more protein, I guess.
You wanted some meat.
Yeah.
You wanted some meat.
Yeah.
What can you do?
But,
you're surrounded by thousands of people.
I thought the food choices were very good. It was kind of cramped. They were kind of they were together and all that. I went to this one breakfast. I got it was like a bun with a fried egg and bacon and sausage, all that on one patty. It was really good. I went there for breakfast one time at the rotisserie. I went to Subway. Good. The line was crazy long.
I got a drink from Subway. It's very familiar. That's why. I know Subway.
Holy
I know what that is.
I've never seen a Subway operate that quickly. They must have had
they were moving,
making sandwiches. They were just whipping people through. That line went quick. And the reason I went to Subway is I wanted a coffee and I wanted something to eat, and I didn't want to stand in 2 different lines. And that's the only place I could find that had coffee and food in this one line.
Yeah, I guess it probably wasn't. There was like a bakery in the center, but that place was crazy busy all the time.
Yeah.
And I went there once to get a drink. I stood there for about 15 minutes and didn't move. I was like, I just want a can of something.
Yeah.
So I left and I just went up to, actually, I ran to the Pakistani joint that I went to repeatedly. And I went and I got a drink over there because there was no one there again.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I'm fine on going for however you want, because we absolutely have to talk about the announcement for the future.
We'll get that. Before we get to that, I just want to talk about London itself. What were how was London? I mean, man, we weren't in the US. I was sitting there watching that first panel thinking to myself, oh my God, I'm by myself because we got separated. I'm in London at Star Wars Celebration at the opening panel. Like the reality hit me. It's like I kind of took a mental snapshot of myself there. What about you for
Yeah. Well, I mean, we can't recap everything that we did. So, but I will say, I mean, London wasn't our first stop also.
Yeah.
Like I flew into London. I took a train. Me and my wife took a train back to Paris, and I spent 3 days in Paris, 2 days in the city, and then 1 day at Disneyland Paris. Then I trained back to London, and then we started doing the celebration. So, like the whole week, I was sort of I was really happy and just sort of proud that I was with a group of people for the majority of the trip. The first 2 days in Paris was just me and Melissa, but then the rest of the days we were with everybody. And the fact that this was all spurred on, well, I guess initially spurred on many, many, many years ago by a podcast I used to do, but then was kept alive through just, the friendships that we kept with it. And now has been spurred on to travel, across the globe and around the globe because of Star Wars.
Yeah.
And I just think that's so cool. Like what a wildly cool thing to do. And it's all under the bridge, built by Star Wars.
Well, that was how we met. We met on a Star Wars cruise.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we went on a Star Wars cruise. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, that's the origin of the beast, is just Star Wars. And, it brought us to London. And I had a great time in London. I really enjoyed it. I was more taken by Paris because it's
agree.
Different when you're walking around and now no one's speaking English. I like that. It was just, and it was just gorgeous. And every day the weather was gorgeous there. London is definitely London. It's got London-ass weather. But I really dug London and going around, and I saw one of the coolest plays I ever saw while I was there. I went to go see Neil Gaiman's The Ocean at the End of the Lane at the Wimbledon Theater. And then we spent like 3 days just walking around the city of London.
How about
me buying books?
How about Stonehenge? Stonehenge was cool.
Stonehenge was the coolest thing I've done in my life, maybe.
Yeah.
That was a life highlight for me. I was just in a different world with me and my camera and just going around and trying to get as many good photos as I felt that I could, while also enjoying being there in the moment, because that's a little tricky sometimes when you're somebody who enjoys like working with a camera. You can look through the lens a little bit too long and not look with your own eyes and just sort of take in like where you are. So I was very cognizant to do that at Stonehenge, and we did it right. We got we did the tour. We booked the tour where you go inside the circle, and we were there for almost 45 minutes to an hour.
I think it was over an hour.
It felt like it. My body felt like it because I was moving around that place.
I think my favorite line of the entire weekend was when we were driving to Stonehenge and Chris was driving and you were in the passenger seat. And Chris has never, I don't think he's ever driven on the left-hand side with a left-hand drive, and he had a standard to boot. And we're in the busy streets of London and we're at a red light, and you say, Chris, you see that cow looking at us? And there was a dairy truck in front of us with a cow on the dairy truck, drawing of a cow. And you said to Chris, that cow is very proud of the way you're driving right now. That was the best line of the whole weekend.
We cannot state enough how much marks Chris Butler gets for driving us from London to Bath, to then Stonehenge, to then the pub where they filmed the first season of Ted Lasso, where we had dinner. And again, I'd like to reiterate what Stan was saying. He's never driven on the opposite side of the road like he had to in London. And it was the first time in a very long time he had to deal with a manual transmission. So I was up there as his navigator so he could focus just on the road. And he did all of it excellently, even with the GPS not really wanting to work with us because it was way far behind, like 20 seconds behind. Yeah. So there was a number of times where we missed turns. And we were just driving around like in the countryside of London just to get ourselves to Stonehenge on time, and everything worked out, which I rarely get to say about a situation like that. So that was a wild day. And that was also the day me and you saw the best thing that we saw when we went into the Mary Shelley Frankenstein Museum or whatever it was
in Bath.
In Bath. It was terrible. but it was worth it at the same time. It was just this little like couple of stories, walk through museum-y thing, telling you the story of Mary Shelley and how she wrote Frankenstein. And then there was this god awful haunted house walk through in the basement. But it was so bad it was good. Like I wouldn't do it again.
Yeah.
But I would suggest that someone else do it if they were there. I'd be like, yeah, go take 30 minutes and go do this. It's
don't
really
get your hopes up though when you go. Don't expect.
Oh, not at all.
Don't expect Shakespeare in the park when you go to this.
Yeah, no. Lower those expectations into the ground, but then have fun with it being in the ground and enjoy. Yeah. That was the Frankenstein animatronic though. Pretty good. Those eyes were pretty damn creepy.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
So
for people that are listening, I'm going to be on Grandsicle Tour podcast doing a whole trip review of Paris, Disneyland Paris. A little bit of celebration, not too much because we're doing it here, and then London for people that are listening. Okay, the big announcement at the end. Where are we going next, man?
Yeah, we're going to Japan, baby. So I was very, 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 very pleased with this. I had been told before we left that it was going to be Japan from a source, and they were right last time. So about London. So I was like, oh, okay, that's wild. And I did tell the group, which I
didn't tell me.
Contemplated. I didn't tell you?
No, you were kept saying Anaheim, I thought.
No, I said Japan.
Saying Japan.
No, that was me.
That was you?
Yeah, I said it was going to be Japan.
And I thought.
I got a lot of pushback. And I was like, okay, we'll see what happens. And the thing was, me and my wife were already planning on going to Japan in 2025. It's on our calendar. That being said, like, you never know, right? It's an expensive trip. So we were like, yeah, that's what we want to do. And that's what we're going to aim for. But it being announced Japan, when that came up in big letters, I cheered. I was so loudly excited.
Yeah, I think the whole room got excited.
Yeah. I cannot wait. I was telling Stan just before we were recording, I am working on a Google Doc that I'm sharing with everybody that is like, hey, here's an idea of our itinerary, because we're making a whole thing of it. We're not just going to Celebration. We're going to go to Celebration. We're going to go to Disneyland Resort, obviously. We're also going to go to Kyoto, Osaka. I'm going to be going to Ghibli Park. We're going to take a day trip to Hiroshima. And basically, I mean, Stan, just so you know, like I was working out like how much it was going to be for a couple in the US, and for two people, came out to about $7,600 with airfare, with hotel, with your Disney tickets, with everything, which me and you were saying, once you take out the exuberant amount, because the plane tickets are $4,000 of that money. Once you take that out, it's the trip to London. It's no different.
Well, or even if you're on the other side of the country, a trip to Disneyland or a trip to Disney World. Yeah. Because your park tickets are going to be similar. Your food is going to be similar. Your rooms are going to be similar in cost. It's just
actually they're all a little cheaper.
Yeah.
Depending on type of room, you can go wild on your room type.
Yeah.
But the park ticket in particular right now, of course, in 2 years, things change. It'll probably go up by like 10, 15%, of course. But right now, a day ticket, because you can't park hop, again, currently, who knows if it'll change in 2 years, $60 for Disneyland Tokyo / Disneyland Sea, Disney Sea. That's significantly cheaper than going one day to Magic Kingdom. That is legitimately half the price. And there are a number of hotels where you can get for like $200 a night, something like that. Or you can go much higher than that to whatever your heart desires. And on top of it, Disneyland Resort is a 30-minute ride via like an Uber or whatever the equivalent would be in Japan to the convention center. So if you were so inclined that you wanted to only stay at Disneyland for your entire stay, for the Star Wars Celebration and for your Disneyland stay, you can. It's totally doable.
Or even in between, somewhere in between. You take a 15-minute.
There are hotels near the convention center. If you are a person who has utilized Airbnbs a lot with multiple guests, probably going to be a little tougher. There really just isn't many options.
No, there isn't.
And if there is an option, you want to keep an eye on how many bathrooms are in that place, because we found one place that was near the area, and it's like, hey, you can bring 9 people here. There is one bathroom.
Yeah.
Again, different culture, different different setups. So keep all that kind of stuff in mind, but it's pretty cool. I mean, the bullet train traveling from essentially the western side of Japan to get back to Tokyo, 2 hours. It's crazy how technology works that way. So yeah, we're working it out and extremely excited. And I think that as a Star Wars fan, in 2 years, those movies are going to be a lot more on the horizon than they are now.
Oh yeah.
One of them maybe even be, you know, at the end of that calendar year, possibly. So a lot of excitement to look forward to than that. And you think of everything that's going on with the High Republic books and what that will look like in 2 years, and what will the TV shows look like in 2 years? Like, what's Acolyte doing by that point? Is Skeleton Crew a hit? You know, what's new? You know, what new show is going to be coming out within 2 years? And big thing of note, Celebration only 3 days.
Yeah.
So 3 days is the shortest that it's been since I've been going.
I'm kind of liking that, I'm thinking, because it kind of gives us more time for Japan.
That's the thing. If that was 3 days in Orlando, I'd be like, oh, it's a kind of a bummer.
Yeah.
But because we're going all the way to Japan, and I would never just go to Japan for Star Wars Celebration and come home. I think that's crazy.
Yeah.
Like, I want to go there to experience Japan. So it being 3 days instead of 4, when you look at like how much the trip is, you kind of divide it into how many hundreds of dollars per day am I spending, right? You know, in a hotel and food and this and that. And 4 days is a lot, you know, to spend on a thing that's where you're going to be all day, and you're going to be kind of tired at the end, just going to want to get dinner and go home. So 3 days of a tighter show sounds very appealing to me in the situation that we're going to have ourselves in Japan.
No, I agree. I agree completely.
Yeah. It's very exciting.
It's going to be fun. Oh man. Is it 2025 yet?
That's the only thing. Like, we're planning now, but we also know, like, you know, logically, we can't really book anything for another calendar year, but we are planning now just so everyone gets an idea of these are the finances.
Yeah.
Because even 2 years away, I mean, $7,000 is nothing to sneeze about unless you are someone of great means, which good for you if you are. But for the majority of people, that is not. So you want to work on that, and you want to put that aside. And we are not doing our trip to Hawaii in 2024. We've decided to put that off. Stan, I know that you said you nixed a cruise.
Yeah, I had a cruise booked for 2024. Unfortunately, I had to pull out of that. I just can't afford to be doing this every year, going everywhere. So I have to cut back somewhere.
Yeah. And I mean, for me, going to Japan with a group of my friends for 2 weeks is monumentally more exciting and vital to like what I want to experience in life than going on another cruise. Cruises are great. I love them. Yeah. They're just cruise. Yeah. You know, it's cool. The boats are nice, but that's it.
Yeah. And cruises will always be there. Celebration in Japan doesn't come around too often.
Yeah. Actually, I hope it doesn't, because my God, it's going to be...
The next celebration is in Japan, 2027.
Oh, no. Brought it upon ourselves.
Oh, man. This has been fun. This has been great. Man. I always enjoy sitting down talking to you, man. You got the chops for a podcast. You should get back into it, man.
No. It's never gonna happen.
Yeah.
No, it's never gonna happen. But I appreciate that. Thank you. But it's never gonna happen.
Yeah.
I don't mind doing this. That's a fun thing. Like, I just ran out of time doing all the other work that had to be done that goes into a podcast. And I was like, nah, I want to like read more and I want to do other stuff.
Yeah.
Like popping on and recording with people, no problem. You can do that left, right. But yeah, unfortunately the other stuff is just too much.
Yeah.
I travel too much for work. I'm not home a lot.
Yeah.
So then when I'm home, I like to actually do stuff, you know. That's really what the flip was. But this was great, man. Thank you so much for
thanks for coming on. Chris and Jackson, where are you guys? You didn't make it.
They're out there somewhere.
I just got a message from Chris saying he I don't know what it was. I missed the message. Sorry. He's got some. Unfortunately he is busy right now.
Yeah.
We all have
came up last moment. Yeah.
Alrighty, Pete. Thanks for coming on. Ken, take it away.
If you have a brilliant idea for a future edition of The Solo Show and would like to take your turn in the guest host's chair, then drop us an email at thesoloshow01@gmail.com. Tell us your idea for the show, and we'll contact you about a date and a time for you to join us. If you would just like to keep the conversation going or have a comment about a previous show, then visit us on Facebook at The Solo Show. All logos, sounds, and songs that are made by and for Disney and its affiliates are owned solely by the Disney Corporation and are not, nor are they intended to be, the ownership of The Solo Show podcast. We hope you'll join us for the next adventure on The Solo Show. Thanks for listening, and bye for now.